right, hello. Today we're talking with Janet Johnson, who is a good friend of mine. I've worked for years. One of the smartest people I've worked with, and I say that in
Oh,
all sincerity. And she has such great insight, and has really great insight into future trends. And so I'll give Janet a chance to introduce herself here. Janet,
oh,
just share with us who you are and what you do.
thank you, Ben. Ben and I have known each other for, I think it's going on 15 years now, and that's kind of exciting. So
Is it
thanks for the
exciting?
opportunity. Yeah, it is.
I'm getting old.
No, you're not either. I'm just, I'm one of the founders of the AI governance group, and I've been on a journey, I think, to help others understand kind of the notion of AI literacy, as it were, because we're all trying to develop an understanding of this new tech transformation. And the way, in real briefly, Ben, that I got here is that back in 20, uh, I guess it was 2003, I was
Wow.
involved with the first paid influencer campaign ever in social media. It was a blogger campaign, and back then we paid bloggers to blog about us, and it became this incredible battle online because these were very smart people, but boy, could they use words. And we were actually called pond scum, and our bloggers were called pimps and whores and things like that. And it was really awful.
That is all.
But yeah, yeah. But at the time, I realized the power of two-way conversations on the web. And so, and you and I met when we were both working in social media together and content marketing together. And fast forward 20 years, and we've gotten to a place where truth, trust, and transparency are all kind of really squishy now. And when I saw, the kind of the large language model burst onto the scene with ChatGPT almost a year ago now, I realized that, what I've been through, what we've been through for the past 20 years is now going to be even more quickly changing and even more potentially uh, dangerous in a way. And I'm really bullish on AI, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of things we need to think about as we move forward to protect, especially truth and trust in each other and what's real and that kind of thing. So I formed this little group of people, the AI governance group. We've got anthropologists, we've got lawyers, we've got 3 lawyers on our team. We have people who have done a lot of corporate underwriting to make sure that risk management has been taken care of, et cetera. And so we come together and we are, creating things like HR policies to protect employees. We're coming up with educational opportunities to protect companies and their IP, and really improving what we're calling AI literacy right now. So that was a long introduction, but it kind
No,
of tells you how I get here, right?
no, absolutely, absolutely. I think that perspective on trust is so interesting. I was gonna make a joke since we're talking about AI about how I know it was actually you and not AI, but I'm guessing in the near future that could be reality.
No, you're right. And I'll tell you what scares me to death right now. And, I joke when I talk to people that I wear a tin hat half the time, right? So my
Nice.
tin hat's on right now. But what scares the living daylights out of me right now is the fact that it only takes like 6 seconds of speech, of voice, to be able to clone a voice and
Right.
use it anywhere you want. And now we've got ChatGPT voice enabled to give prompts. So let's
Right.
think about that for a minute. I am now speaking to an AI machine, and it's grabbing my voice, it's keeping my voice, etc. And I'm a little worried about, being able to grab that data and use it in a way that could be, um, help deep fakes,
Right.
abound, those kinds of things.
Well, I think that's why it's
So.
so important, and we'll get more into this. Why that I just appreciate that you're thinking about these things because we'll get more into all of this. But I mean, obviously, people see the benefits of it, but I think really someone or people being out there just to think about these things, because I think you're right, like the implications could be very significant, and if someone's not thinking about it, you can just get taken by surprise so easily.
That's so true. It's
Um,
scary.
and I know you've been focused on the generative AI. Could you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, there's so much discussion around AI. I think people just throw it around. And so, but I think, you know, sort of sharing a definition of what this aspect of AI is.
Sure, it's really the thing that, we've been using AI for 20 years.
Mhm.
Honestly, our little cell phones are full of AI assistants, right? And so we what really kind of forced the conversation and what burst into the news and everybody's talking about it and everybody's an expert about it anymore is through these large language models or generative models where you prompt them and they regurgitate or they come up with some really interesting content, whether it be images, whether it be text, those kinds of things. And that really kind of made the common person aware of the fact that, hey, I can use these things
Right.
and it can make a big difference in my life if we do. So that's kind of the thing that burst onto the scene, and it's changing very rapidly. And so, large language models, ChatGPT, Claude, et cetera, are that generative AI thing that most people are starting to really experiment with more because we have control over those
Right.
tools now, and we can actually use them. AI is being built into practically every software that there is anymore. And so it's all going to blur. It's all going to blur together.
So
Yeah.
this is the first one that the sort of common person can touch and feel, though, which
Yeah.
is what the impact is, where they can, I mean, so everyone was experiencing it through it, but now they're actually able to utilize it directly. And so, which is obviously just democratizing the access to it. And so making it much more powerful.
Yes. Yeah. And we all have an opportunity now to play, which we should be doing. And I wear my tin hat, like I said, but boy, howdy, I really want people to play with
Right.
these engines because we need to be building our competencies around these tools.
Right. Right.
It's really important.
And so we're really focused. I mean, this is a good start of the discussion. From our perspective, we're consultants. And so one of the questions is, it's obviously not all doom and gloom when it comes to AI. What are some of the ways that it can actually be beneficial to organizations in terms of driving growth or efficiency?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I heard a gentleman say the other day that hard skills like doing development, things that you specialize in are really those kinds of skills that could be moved to the machine, right? And so soft skills, things like, interpersonal skills, emotion, empathy, those kinds of things are the things that are so human and part of the human intelligence and that kind of thing. And in fact, I was just reading an article in Deloitte this morning, which I can share with you. I'll send you the link,
Okay.
um, where they were talking about the fact that soft skills are really going to be taking over what are traditionally called job skills. We're not going
Right.
to be doing specific jobs anymore. We're going to be doing, more things that are going to take us in new places. And so that's a fundamental way that people are going to have to shift their thinking about what they bring to an organization.
Right.
But
Right.
to get back to your question, I think that AI, as you work together with it, and there are a whole bunch of different ways to describe that. Instead of saying artificial intelligence, you might think of it as augmented intelligence and put it more on me, right? I have the ability now to have first drafts of pretty much anything I want, or summaries of PDFs, or summaries of books, those kinds of things, accessible in seconds. And so I think it's going to really speed up our creativity. We're going to be speeding up our productivity. And we're going to be able to spend more time. I think the people in business who use these tools are going to be able to spend more time being strategic, um, being thoughtful, and putting more emphasis on, the wisdom that they've gathered over the years versus, the hard stuff of just slogging through, getting to a point where you can get some aha time to
Right.
to reflect on data, that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. I mean, it is interesting to think about that transformation. I worked in the airlines when the internet was really first coming on board, and we had huge call centers. I mean, I know they still have, but it's really interesting to see how technology and the web enabled that transformation, which was painful. I mean, it really was painful for many people to be like
Mm-hmm.
away from call centers and doing everything online. I think ultimately it created a much better experience for everyone, but the required skills definitely changed. And I think AI could be even greater than that shift to online,
Yeah.
ultimately when it's shows its full impact.
Yeah, you mentioned call centers. I was listening to a podcast recently where they were talking about how the mundaneness of working at a call center is one of the things that AI is really good at help removing, so that by the time they get to an actual person, the person has a much better way of handling the actual challenge or the thing that is generating the call, because AI has helped solve the easy problems, and it gives call center workers a lot more control, and they have they have opportunities now that they never had before
Right.
because of these tools. So I think it's going to we will get away from the mundane and be able to work on more interesting things, I think. Yeah.
Right. Right. That is great. And so yeah, ultimately it should be show many benefits. And I mean, it's interesting to think as people are thinking about their careers, where should they focus, especially if you're younger, have kids in high school, and
Yeah.
what does this mean for them from, where should they be focused in terms of their career ambitions and what skills
Yeah.
they develop. Um,
Boy,
yeah,
critical thinking skills. And who's teaching that right now, Ben? Who's teaching critical thinking skills? Parents. But
right,
at the same time, those are going to be so important as we move into this area of content that's being developed by these engines, basically. And it's really interesting to me that, one of the earlier conversations around AI, there was a great tweet where the guy said, English is the new programming language because
right.
of things like prompt engineering and that kind of thing. So your kids are going to have a whole different world. It's amazing, right?
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about.
Hmm.
So obviously, one of the things that you've been focused on is, how can organizations incorporate AI in a way that's like fair and equitable,
Mhm.
and eliminates some of the dangers. What are some of the things that you think companies need to watch out for when it comes to AI?
Well, I think a lot of organizations are thinking really at the top level about AI. They're thinking, well, how's this going to help me get ahead of my competition, that kind of thing. But I don't think people realize, especially leadership teams, and I think this is a board level conversation that most folks should be having right now. But leadership teams are going to have to work together in ways we've never worked before. For example, you and I are marketers, right? We know that the only time we really talk to a legal person in an organization is when we need a contract signed, right?
Right.
So help me with this contract. Does this look okay to you, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera? Well, now because AI tools can be distributed through an organization, you want them to be used consistently across the org, and you want to have all the leaders really understand what's happening elsewhere to protect the data, to protect the people, to protect our IP and our brands as we're using these tools. So the communication at the leadership level and the understanding and the common language we're going to need at the leadership level is going
Right.
to go across the organization. And that's not happened before. I think we are used to working in relative silos. I mean, marketers were the first ones to bring in Slack and other, shadow IP things that, the CIO is kind of going, oh, you guys, come on. But now it's becoming an even bigger deal, right?
Right.
So I think that the communication and the understanding and the common language at a leadership level is really going to have to change in order to harness these tools and get the best out of them, and to control the
Right.
data that we're both getting out of it and putting into it, which is, it all comes back to the data and how we can protect ourselves and our customers as well. So it's
And
that
we've
kind of
all
thing.
read those headlines about people not understanding what happens to the data once it goes into ChatGPT or one of these AI systems.
Yep.
It's not theirs anymore. It's
It isn't
right.
into perpetuity. It is not yours anymore. I mean, one of our attorneys is, I love Carrie so much because she actually reads privacy policies, right?
Right.
And she's read these privacy policies, and we give up anything we put into the tools. So, into perpetuity. And so, and don't get me wrong, this is happening. You give up your likeness on TikTok today. You give up anything that you put on TikTok today into perpetuity, no holds barred. You cannot get it back. Now, Facebook is very similar, but there are ways that they're a little bit more malleable in terms of, because I think they've been under such scrutiny in comparison. However, these tools, they own everything. And so we have to be, and I think that organizations are going to have to be prepared to educate their employees every single part of the way as to what we can do. And that's really why we've formed and are trying to get the word out about this stuff, right? It's really important. So thank you for hosting this
Oh,
and
absolutely.
inviting me. Seriously.
No, it's amazing. I don't think any. I mean, I think a lot of people are thinking about how can I write this blog post easier. I don't think anyone's thinking, or very few, or I mean, and just like you said, at the board level, the CEO level, very few of them are thinking about what does this mean for my organization, that like the shadow IT projects are happening. Like, what does this mean for our organization? It's just not. I mean, until I spoke with you, I was not thinking about it that way. I mean, I
Mm.
read headlines, but I think that proactive approach is absolutely going to be necessary, or there's going to be very unintended consequences.
I think you're right, and that's why I think I've told you we've created these HR policies. One's a very permissive policy, but it gives you a whole bunch of things to think about, and I'll share them with you because we're giving these away. The other one is a restrictive policy. So if you want to protect your company until you know more, put in the policy into your handbook, and so
Right.
at least people can read through them and understand kind of how to think about these things, right? So. I appreciate the fact that people aren't thinking, and it's just because I've been through this whole journey with social media, and I could see this,
Right.
within a month of ChatGPT going out, it's like, oh man, we are really in for it. And you say unintended consequences. There are so many great consequences of this thing, and that's the thing I want to also make sure that
Right.
that people get is, by golly, play with this stuff. It's so important, right?
Right.
Yeah,
What an interesting
yeah,
perspective, though. I hadn't thought about that before. Is your background with social media? I think this is on a different scale, but with social media, right? Like, what are your employees posting? What responsibility does the company have
right.
employees in turn? I mean, and this is on a scale like a magnitude far beyond that, but it is. I think your background really adds some interesting perspective, and it's probably highlighting things that you just had the foresight that other people would lack because you experienced things through social media.
Yeah, we got dragged through it. But the good thing right now, Ben, is people are asking better questions today than we were, but
Oh, that's cool.
about social 20 years ago, right?
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
that's where it gives me a good heart around that. Now, I listened to an attorney who was studying this a few weeks ago. It's been a month ago, speaking to a group of CIOs and CISOs, and he was saying, federal regulation here in the United States is 20 years away around this.
Oh,
So,
wow.
it's going to be the wild, wild west. But the good news is there are states like California who are kind of adopting very much EU like GDPR kind of privacy rules around it. So that'll kind of lead the way. It's going to be a state by state effort
Interesting.
first, which will be another tough one, right? around governance and the use of AI. But that's why I think companies are going to be so important, especially, if you listen to Edelman's trust survey, CEOs are more trusted than the government or oftentimes anyone right now. And so it's going to be incumbent on smart, intelligent leadership in business to get us through this beginning of the wild, wild west, for sure. Yeah.
Is there anything just based on the work that you've done recently that's really surprised you in terms of either how people are using AI, just in general, just anything that's really surprised you in terms of what you found through your recent work?
I'm surprised at, and you're going to laugh at this coming from me. I'm surprised a little bit that people aren't taking this as seriously as they should be. And
Right.
there's a lot of fear around it. There's a lot of just like, let's dip our toe in the water. And I think I'm surprised that the other thing I'm surprised at the same time is people are starting to dip their toe in the water. This stuff is fast changing. I
Right.
mean, the fact that within 10 months of the inaugural launch of ChatGPT, that you can actually show it pictures and give your voice to it and have it respond with the images and the things that it can do now. And I use ChatGPT as a reference for many of these
Right. Right.
large
Right.
language models. Okay. But the fact is, it is changing so rapidly and the advances are coming so quickly that, that schism of business and people just dipping their toe in the water with the speed with which, software is changing. I think that's going to be a potential for, a lot of unintended consequences. And I keep telling my PR friends, get your crisis communication plans ready.
Right.
Make sure you are ready for this because, it's going to hit.
Right, right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. What so you've given so much good information, but do you have one do you have one recommendation you would give to companies who are looking to into AI and how to utilize it?
Do it and do it with, the first thing they should do is get together as a leadership team, spend the day together and figure out what is going to be their policy going forward. Every company should have a strategic AI statement that they rally around so that their employees understand how it's going to be used within the organization, so that their customers understand how it's going to be used within the organization, and so that everything across the organization, and I'm talking business, but I think, schools, et cetera, should be doing this so that we all have a shared understanding, a common language, and just some guidelines and guardrails to get us started with, right? Again, give the policy away to everybody that have their attorneys go through it, but get the education going. It's just so important. So thank you for your, for putting these kinds of things on. We got to be
I,
discussing this more
I think
actively.
it's great. I mean, I think that's great advice. I mean, really, just think about even with our clients. I mean, I think just sitting down, having the leadership team sit down and just think about AI, just having that communication around what AI means and
Mm-hmm.
the potential ramifications. I mean, that's a very simple thing to do, but I think it would really start highlighting some of the challenges and opportunities. But I haven't heard that those conversations are being had. But I think that's just a great first step is just start communicating about this and
Mm-hmm.
have discussions and then figuring out, just like you said, like, how do we manage as an organization? I think it's a great place for them to start.
Yeah, I do too. And I think we'll see more of that in 2024, but I really do think those forward thinking organizations are going to have to start as soon as possible to get these conversations going. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that was my last question. Thank you so much, Janet, for sharing your thoughts with us. And I mean, I would love to continue these conversations in the future because you're right. It's changing so quickly that I'm sure there'll be lots and lots more to talk about
Oh, lovely.
all right.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Ben. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I swear. And by the way, your wife's business, lawyers, the attorneys are going to have a lot more fun with their work now, given the kinds of things they're able to do with AI, both and then protecting against
Right, 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 right.
the other side of things. So, it's really going to be fun to watch and to participate as we can in this tech transformation. I'll leave you with this last thought that was my favorite quote out of anything I've read lately, and it's that, we have built Jurassic Park, but we have not yet built any of the electric fences. And in fact, we don't even know where to put them yet. So
In
it's going to
Jurassic
be
Park, that worked out well. So even with the
right.
fences. So that's a great quote. That's really interesting.
I love it. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity. And I really do look forward to continuing our chats.
Of
It'll
course.
be really fun. Let's do it again. All
Right.
right.